Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and we are doing another Throwback Thursday. So I am really excited for this one. One of these books is a book box set, and one of them was one in my childhood I read over and over and over again. I absolutely loved it, and so I was really excited to get it again and reread it. And I went ahead and read the other four books, or the other three books that went along with it, and absolutely enjoyed them so much. And so that is Sideways Stories from Wayside School. And that's actually the first book. That's not the book I had though. And so let me go ahead and take our little worm out of here. But yeah, absolutely love these books. There is a four-book collection. I got this from Amazon, and I'll leave it linked in the description below in case you're interested. You can also find them like on thrift books, I'm pretty sure. Um, and things like that. So, look around. You don't have to get them from Amazon. But yeah, there's four books. So there's Sideways Stories from Wayside School. There's Wayside School's Falling Down, which is the one I had. Wayside School Gets a Little Stranger, and then Wayside School Beneath the Cloud of Doom. So absolutely love these. This first book, as I was reading it, it seemed really familiar, and I had never read this before, as far as I can tell. I think what was so familiar about it was the characters, because each character has a certain thing about them. Um, that's kind of like their thing. Like Todd always gets disciplined every time he has to go write his name up under the word discipline, whether he was being bad or not. There's Leslie with her pigtails. So there's just certain things about each of the characters. So I think that's why this book was so familiar to me, because I had read, Wayside School's Falling Down so often, and all the characters, are very familiar. So I think that's why this one brought back a certain sense of nostalgia and things like that. But it was really enjoyable. I enjoyed reading this. I have one little part from it that I'm going to share, but just a lot of fun. And then this is the one I had growing up, Wayside School's Falling Down. And I had one, it had a green cover. And I was going to get that one, but it didn't come in the four-box set. I would have to have gotten that one separate. But I kind of wanted to get that one again just for nostalgia, because that's the cover I remember. But in the end, I enjoyed this book so much, I wanted to get the whole set, so I decided to forego getting the green cover. And I might, I don't have any qualms about having multiple copies of books on my shelves, so I might in the end get the green cover just so I have it. But I'll try to insert a picture of the one I'm talking about. But yeah, this is the one I read over and over and over again, and I enjoyed it so much more as an adult, just because, like I said, I caught the little things that you don't necessarily catch when you're a kid. So really enjoyed that one. And next we have Wayside School Gets a Little Stranger. This one, the next two, they weren't as good in my mind as the other two. They were still really enjoyable. I did enjoy them, but they kind of introduced some new characters, and I don't know. It was just, they kind of changed some characters, and I don't know. I just didn't enjoy them quite as much as the other two. I still found them really enjoyable though. And so yeah, this one, is a lot of fun. There's, like I said, new characters introduced. Which is fun, and some of the play on names, like you have a Mr. Pickle, but everybody calls him Mr. Pickles, and he has like a chain with a pickle on it that he used to hypnotize people. So that's pretty fun and things like that. And then the last one is Wayside School Beneath a Cloud of Doom, and this one kind of goes back to like the original characters. It does bring back some of the ones that were introduced in Wayside School Gets a Little Stranger, and this one was actually written 40 years after the others. And so I thought that was fun. And I just want to read the little part here, because I think it's funny. Um, and so it's a note from the author, and he's talking about how this is the fourth book. He wrote the first one, Sideways Stories from Wayside School, more than 40 years ago. Says, I'm a lot older now, but in my heart, I'm still Lewis the art teacher, passing out the balls and playing with the kids at recess. To fully enjoy this book, you should read the other three first. Wait 40 years and then read this one, or you can just read it now. And so I didn't wait quite 40 years, but it's probably been, uh, around 20 since I read, Wayside School is Falling Down anyway. So yeah, absolutely love this one, and it was fun too. I definitely enjoyed the first two a little bit more, but let's go ahead and start with Sideways Stories from Wayside School. So with this one, like I said, it's really just introducing the characters. And you actually start off with a horrible teacher, Miss Gorf, and she turns the children into apples. And then after that, in comes Miss Jules. Um, and then just kind of each chapter has like a different kid they're talking about or a different thing they're talking about depending on what book you're reading. This one really focused on the characters, so it mainly like was introducing you to the different characters. And so, like I said, you have Todd, who always gets in trouble. You have Leslie with her pigtails, her braided pigtails, and Paul, who sits behind her, likes to pull on them. You have Terrence, who likes to kick everything. You have Bibi, who is really really good at art, and that's like her thing. And I think it's Calvin who helps her. And so there's just a whole list. You have three Erics: Eric Fry, Eric Bacon, and Eric Oven. And so it's just a lot of fun. And then the principal is Mr. Kidswatter, which I love the name. And things like that I didn't catch as a kid. Like it just never registered with me. And like I said, I didn't read this one. I read the second one. But yeah, this one basically just introduces you to the character. And there's one part I marked because I really really liked it, and that is so basically, there is this boy named Nancy, and he is really self conscious about his name. And then there's another girl who is in a different class, and her name is Mac. And she's also self conscious about her name because she thinks it's a boy name, he thinks his name is a girl name. And so they end up trading names. And so in the rest of the books, which this is something even as an adult, if I hadn't caught, if I hadn't read this one and then reread the School is Falling Down, I wouldn't have caught it. But in the rest of the books, Nancy and Mac, they're dating. That's his girlfriend. Um, but their names are swapped. So Mac, the one who is Nancy, the boy who is Nancy, is now Mac in the rest of the books, and then his girlfriend, who was Mac, is now Nancy in the rest of the book. So just little things like that, like it's so much fun. And so I marked that one because that was probably like my favorite chapter in this first book was them swapping names. I thought it was funny. And then in Wayside School is Falling Down, it just kind of goes through a different stories and different things that are happening. Um, One chapter is about Miss Mush's mushroom surprise, um, and that's fun. There's another part where it's talking about the principals getting angry because the he always tells them, when you're going up the stairs, make sure you stay on the right side, and when you're coming down, make sure you stay on the left, and not realizing that he's telling them to go on the left side, which is your right side when you're going up. And so the people are hitting into each other, and he's getting frustrated that they don't understand the concept of going up the stairs and such, but he's literally telling them to run into each other. And that's another thing I did not catch as a child, but I marked another page. I can't remember why. Let me go ahead and get to it. I only had like a little piece of paper towel here. Let's see here. Oh yeah, so this one, there's a new kid in this one as well, and his name is actually Benjamin Nushmut, but everybody calls him Mark Miller, which is fun. And so like the whole school year he isn't correcting, or he tries to correct them and it doesn't work out. Finally is able to tell him at the end of the year in his lunch from the very first day he'd forgotten his lunch, and his mom had dropped it off. And so Lewis, the art teacher, brought it up, and Miss Jules was like, I don't have a Benjamin in my class. And Lewis is like, are you sure? And she's like, I think I know my students, but Benjamin really there. He's just being called Mark Miller. And then there's a 19th story, and there is no 19th story though. And Miss Zarvis teaches on the 19th story, but there is no Miss Zarvis. So that's really fun. And then one of the kids from Miss Jules' class ends up on the 19th story, like she's completely invisible, and ends up in the class on the 19th story. And there's actually a kid in there whose name is Mark Miller, but everybody calls him Benjamin Neshmat. And so just like little things like that, like I just find it so enjoyable. And then, like the other two, Miss Jules actually ends up having a baby, and so there's some new teachers introduced, which is fun. Especially the one is Mrs. Gorf's son. Um, so that's kind of a whole thing, and there's kind of like certain magical properties they have. Miss Gorf did, like I said, she turned them all into apples, and now you have her son in this one, and then you have some other teachers that are introduced as well. And then in the Wayside School Beneath the Cloud of Doom, like I said, it's just kind of there's a big cloud of doom overhead. Um, that's affecting things and whatnot. So really enjoyable books. Like I said, I don't think it matters if you are the ages aim for ages 8 to 12 or if you're an adult. I think it's so much fun, and I strongly recommend them. Even if you are older, I think, like I said, what I kind of enjoy about them is just like the quirkiness of them, and everything doesn't make sense, but that's it makes sense because it doesn't make sense. If that makes sense. So, and I think that's what I enjoyed about it as a kid. At the time when I was reading it, I didn't know I was autistic or anything like that. But as an adult looking back, like I can understand why I enjoyed it, because sometimes I found some of the like social things and whatnot very confusing, or this one, like it just was what it was, and so I found it really enjoyable. Sometimes like the kid is reading upside down, and so the words are upside down. At one point, it's like mirrored. The one kid, Kathy, gets sent to the psychiatrist, Mr. Pickles, and he opposite she's kind of opposite, like everything somebody says she says the opposite, and so he doubles that, I guess, in some way, and so he has her go through a mirror. Anyway, and so everything's backwards to her, like it's mirrored to her. Um, I mean, she sees it like how it's supposed to be, but to everybody else it's mirrored. And so the words were mirrored, which I thought was a lot of fun. But just little things like that. I strongly encourage you to get these books, especially if you have kids. I think it's a really fun one, maybe to share with your kids. Like I said, I found them just as enjoyable now as an adult as I did when I was a kid, and maybe even more so because I caught the little references and things like that. So, strongly, like I said, recommend these. Definitely very, very fun. I'm gonna go ahead and leave you guys here, and yeah, happy reading, everyone. Bye.